Hi everyone, Samuel here. Welcome back to another video. So I finally got my driver's license and that's why I'm out here with my car. I'm pretty happy about it. Finally I can move around, especially here in the countryside. It's very important to have a car. Now I can do Thomas Heaton style videos, you know? And I'm actually excited about doing a little bit of early sunrise landscape photography and stuff like that. So stay tuned for that coming up. But today I want to talk about my color editing workflow because it's been a while since I talked about my editing workflow. The last time I talked about color specifically was when I was selling my presets, the ones that I sell on my website. And I really made them for myself because I was looking for that one specific look, which is the positive film effect that you get on the GR1 and 2. And that's what I was really craving, and that's my favorite film simulation or color emulation, camera emulation, whatever it is. So that was the last time, and it was 2018. Now, 4 years later, I'm going to tell you to stop buying my presets, which is not good for me financially, of course. But there's something new that works better for me, and I can't hold it back any longer, and I can't pretend that my presets are actually worth buying if there's something better out there. And I'm talking about my friends at Cobalt Image. I did a video about them a while ago. You can rewatch that if you want. It's two guys from Italy who create profiles, not presets, that create profiles for cameras, for a bunch of cameras, probably for whatever camera you own as well. And basically they make profiles in such a way that we can do inside Lightroom or Capture One. It requires a different method, and I don't understand how they do it, but they do it very scientifically, and basically they get you accurate results. And first they started by offering base presets to match all your different camera sensors to give you the same output. And that in itself is already very attractive for someone who does wedding photography, for example, or events. So for a professional, this is already super valuable. And on top of that, they're also offering camera emulation packs. For example, the Canon 5D has a very popular look. It has a very filmic, some people compare it to Kodachrome. It has a very vintage look. It's very pretty. I own the Canon 5D, and yeah, it is very pretty. Now you can get that look of that camera for your Fujis, for your Ricohs, for your Leicas, because they measured the color output of the 5D, for example, and then created a profile for it that you can apply onto your cameras. But in order for that to work 100% accurately, you have to buy a base profile first. So it is a little bit of a costly thing to do. It's cheaper to just buy presets, but the problem with presets is that once you apply them onto your image, you do a little adjustments, and then you might want to copy that to a different image. But every image has to be treated individually, right? Because the light is different, color temperature is different. So presets don't work on all images, but the profiles that Cobalt Image provides, they work kind of like your camera profiles you already get with your camera. If you use a Fuji, you have your film simulations in Lightroom, right? Or Capture One. That's kind of what profiles are. And Cobalt Image just gives you more profile options. And for me, I'm very picky when it comes to color. That's also one of the reasons why I had to experiment so much with different camera systems, because each camera system gives you a different look. But with the help of Cobalt Image, you can get whatever camera look you prefer. And this summer they released a new emulation pack, which I always wanted, and I asked them to do it, and they said they were already working on it. So it was a perfect timing. And that is a Ricoh GR emulation pack. So that was good news. I was so happy. And when they sent me the finished product while I was in Japan this summer, I immediately used it in all of my photos, for my Nikon files, for my Ricoh GR3, which doesn't have any profiles in Lightroom, right? With the Ricoh GRs, you always just have to work with Adobe Color or whatever Capture One provides you. But now you can have all your bleach bypass, high contrast black and white, monotone, you know, and positive film, of course. So I immediately tested it, and it is 100% what you get on the GR1. It's the same look. And I even compared my GR1, so the real deal, the real positive film effect in JPEG. I used that on the GR1, and then I used my GR3 and took the same photo and then applied the Cobalt image positive film emulation. And to my eyes, it's 100%. There might be a little difference in the contrast and the midtones maybe, but that's something you can still work on. This is the OG GR1, which has the positive film effect built in. And in June this year, we had a GR meetup in Berlin, and I took this camera with me and only shot JPEG. And I'm going to show you a few images from that trip, just to give you an impression of how positive film looks like. And then I think you will get what I like so much about it. And then after that, we will work on some images. So I hope you can understand why I like this effect so much. It's just very pretty. It gives me nostalgic vibes, and I really love it. And I always wished that I can use it on different cameras and longer lenses. So now we can, and I'm so happy. Now, the last time I talked about the Cobalt image profile, someone got really upset in the comment section and said something like, you know, presets don't work. First of all, I wasn't even talking about presets, right? But he said, you know, every photo has to be treated individually, and if you don't want to spend time for your images, then photography is not for you, and something like that. And I get where he's coming from, right? You don't want to use a preset which gives you a look that someone else created for you, right? But I think when it comes to profiles, you should treat it, you should see it in a different light. For example, I treat profiles as a film stock. You know, when you shoot film, you either shoot Kodak or Fuji, right? And some of the other color films as well, but most people are either Kodak people or Fuji people. So that's kind of how I see profiles. And then with the Cobalt profile, the positive film one, for example, you have a slider to adjust the amount, the strength of the profile. So you can use 30% of the look of positive film, because sometimes I find it a little bit too much. And what I do with my Nikon D850 files, which are beautiful, I like the colors I'm getting with this camera. But Nikon has a little bit of a green tint, especially skin tones are a little bit green. And by using the positive film effect, around about 30% or 40%, it creates a very beautiful skin tone. And to me, this camera sensor combined now with the Cobalt image positive film emulation profile, not to be confused with presets, that is my starting point to work on my files. And I'm editing all my photos at the moment on my iPad, which is not, of course, not the most accurate monitor to look at. I have a calibrated photo editing monitor at home. So when I do critical color work, I do it back in my home office, of course, but the iPad is just so convenient, and I really enjoy editing my photos in the iPad version of Lightroom. So here I have a photo that I recently took. I showed it in one of my last POV videos, and I'm choosing this one first because it has lots of red in the background, which is great because positive film does really affect the reds, and we have lots of faces here, which is also good. So first, what I always do is just do some basic corrections, maybe brighten it up, highlights and shadows. Another thing that I do, a little pro tip here, is I go to color and I go to color grading and change the luminance on the midtones. And look what happens. Look at the people's faces and look what happens. You see how You know, with digital, especially with RAW files, everything is even. The gradation of the transition from light to shadow is very even. And it's kind of how film looks, you know, it always looks a little flat, but at the same time it has a decent amount of contrast. So it's a little weird, we don't quite know what it is, but I think it has to do with the midtones being just a little brighter on film. It's just my imagination. I don't know if it's true, but maybe it's because how light resolves on the film strip. I don't know. But you can see that the faces get a little flatter, right? So that's what I do sometimes. I don't want to overdo it, but sometimes it does help creating a little bit more of an organic look maybe. So then I go to profiles, and you can see here I have a bunch of Cobalt profiles, and on standard Adobe color is selected, but I'm going to go straight to my Cobalt Ricoh GR Profiles, and you can see here we have monotone, we have the high contrast black and white, which I'm not a fan of, but a lot of people really love it. And just to show you, you can of course go back and, you know, change the contrast. If you don't like this super high contrast look, you can reduce it a little bit. So let's go back to whatever I did before. And we have, you know, bleach bypass. I don't use that one. I really only use positive film and monotone. I like monotone. You can also use the standard profile from the Ricoh GR. So I don't know if you can see the difference here between Adobe color. Maybe it is because I'm already using a GR here, so that's probably why you don't see a difference. Okay, so but now let's have a look at positive film, and you can see here I favorited it. Boom. So that is how positive film looks by default. It adds a little bit of contrast, so we might have to dial back our contrast. But you can see here on the bottom is a little slider, so we can change the strength of this slider. But for now I'm going to leave it at 100%, and I go back. Now I find the skins to be too bright, the skin tones, so I'm reducing the midtones again. Maybe for this image we don't need it to be that strong. Maybe a little darker, less contrast, shadows maybe. And then what I also find is because positive film is very warm, and it has a little bit of a magenta tint. So by adding a little bit of a green tint back, I think it looks better. And then you can make it warm or cold, but I'm going to leave it here. So this is basically how positive film would look like on a GR1 or 2. So this is before and this is after. Let's work on a Nikon file, because Nikon definitely looks different than Ricoh. And I think it's cool to see the positive film effect on a full frame camera as well. So I have an image here from Osaka. This is one of my friends. We were hanging out, and let's just correct this image real quick. This was shot on the 40 Voigtlander f2. I love that lens. But this is something you can't get on a GR, right? This kind of look. So let's say I'm happy with this edit. I go to my profiles, and here's my positive film. And to me this looks too much, but I'm going to show you here. I go all the way to 0, and look at the skin. It is a little bit green, right? That's just how Nikon sees the world. But you can correct that by using positive film. You see how it clears up a little bit, and I find this to be much better. Maybe this. So this would be my choice. I would say it's like 50%. And yeah, I don't know what else to do here. Maybe make the white balance a little colder, a little bit of green tint back into it. Also, I'm on my iPad here, and it's not a good idea to edit photos outside. I should be inside and use a proper monitor. So now you have a Nikon file with the positive film effect at 50%. And so the thing is with presets, you know, my presets, they come close to this. So it's not that they don't work, but that little bit of magic, especially skin tones, I just couldn't do it. And you know, I spent 2 weeks, no joke, I spent 2 weeks. I think I took time off on the weekend, but during the week I would work on my RAW files every day for the whole day, testing other camera RAW files as well, just to get a consistent look for my presets. And then I reached a point where it was just impossible to make it perfect, and I accepted the fact that I can't make it perfect. But it was close enough for me that I could use it to work with it. But this profile brings back it's something in the skin. It makes the shadow area a little bit red, and I can't do that. I really can't do that. And I don't think anyone can do, because the guys from Cobalt Image, they use a different technique. I don't know how they do it. They're wizards. I don't know. But I'm so glad that they made this profile, because whenever I'm using my presets, because I'm so used to that positive film look on my GRs, I always wish that I could get them, that, you know, that the 10-15% that is missing. I wish I could have that. So shit, my battery's dying. Okay, so quick, I want to show you some more profiles, because Cobalt has some. So for example, I promised them to show also some of they have a black and white film pack, which emulates, you know, you see Fuji Neopan, Ilford Delta, you have HP5 and different contrast settings, Kodak, T-Max. So I'm not into black and white at the moment, but I think this is great for people who want to get the tones right, because that's what's difficult, right? Contrast you can change, but the tones, man, it's all about the tones. So in the beginning, before they made the GR Profile pack, I was using their CCD Fever emulation, which has the Fuji S5 Pro, for example, which is another very pleasing profile, and I think it works well with Nikon files. The only thing is, for me, I prefer the more yellowish orange reds, and this one has more pinkish reds. But it is a nice profile. So yeah, that's what I really love about these profiles, is that you can basically merge a Canon look with a Fuji look, and you know, and find your own look out of that. So what I showed you today is basically how I edit my color photos. My philosophy is always to keep it simple, and if I know someone will comment again and yeah, it's all about, you know, creating your own look, and why do you use looks of other cameras, and it really doesn't really matter, right? Because as long as you are happy with your photos, your files, then why do you care, right? So I hope you found this useful, and check out Cobalt Image if you like. I will put links in the description. They didn't pay me to do this video. They just sent me the profiles. And I'm actually going to lose money by doing this video, because now you guys won't buy my presets again. But you know, it's fine. I made them because I wanted to have that positive film look. Now Cobalt Image did it better. So credit where credit is due. And yeah.
It was at this moment that he knew. He fucked up.
I guess if you want to support my channel, you can still become a channel member and get exclusive content like deleted scenes and outtakes from interviews and stuff, and all of that cool stuff. I also do more than one member vlog in a month, so you get to see more updates, sneak peeks. And stay tuned for zines, for books. I'm really working hard at the moment to create at least one zine or book this year will be finished. Stay tuned for that. And if you like this video, please leave a like, please comment, please share this video if you find it useful. That also supports me greatly. All right, thank you for watching, and see you next week, probably, or 2 weeks. 1 or 2 weeks, that's my upload. Okay, I'm going to leave. So, bye guys.